He is a sociologist and he is the principal investigator of this research project. He teaches sociology at Manchester University. He is an associate professor. He has written extensively on various aspects of migration and growth of British diaspora, communities from South Asia. His work is exploring issues of social change, integration and community cohesion. And his books include From Taxi Mills to Taxi Ranks, From Textile Mills to Taxi Ranks. That is based on his PhD research and remains one of the few and a major study of the social and economic change amongst Azad Kashmiris in Oldham. And then the other day he was telling me, 25 years ago, the parents were driving taxis and now children are too. Nothing changes for some community. So,
actually, that's the question that I really want to maybe we have a discussion, or that I hope comes out of this research project. So, as Adalat keeps on telling me, just to age me, that it's been 25 years or so since we've known each other, and since we've been doing this research, or I've been doing research with Kashmiris in the northwest, in Manchester, Oldham, and with other minority groups. And my PhD was called From Textile Mills to Taxi Ranks, and it involved interviewing migrants who came from Azad Kashmir to Oldham to work in the textile mills. Those of you who are old enough to remember, that's all you would see in places like Rochdale, Oldham. One of my respondents said to me that it was like a forest of chimney stacks when you first came here. All you would see everywhere were these mills, which now you can only imagine, because I don't think there are hardly any of the buildings left now that these mills used to occupy. And the textile mills were the reason why people came to this country and came to the northwest. And in all the discussions, it's forgotten often that the people who came here came to save the textile industry, because otherwise it was going to go in decline. It would have disappeared. They started a 24-hour shift system, and none of the local workers wanted to work the night shift. And so when we talk about night economy, it goes quite far back, the night economy, because people came to work on night shifts, on shifts that in work that people didn't want. And what I find quite depressing is, again, what Dalit has kind of said, is that for some communities, it hasn't changed very much. The night economy is still there. Now it's taxi ranks or takeaways. And these two aspects of the night economy, which were there present in the early 1990s, just haven't gone away, and actually it feels like new generations are working in them. And so I published this book in 2000, which was based on Oldham, but actually you could look at it in any of the small mill towns, or any of the mill towns in the northwest. Rochdale would be a very similar story of how those migrants who came with aspirations and dreams for their children then go on to work in takeaways or in taxis. And now we're seeing a third generation going into, even though they may have got educated or they may have got degrees, they haven't got the local economic opportunities, and so they are also going back into working in takeaways or working in what you might call precarious, which we call now the kind of sociological terms, precarious labour, which means it's where it's a job which you don't have a fixed income. It's not stable, your income. And so, to a large extent, I kind of stopped working on these issues in the 2000s, though I'll kind of tell a bit of a story. I'll come back to it. I'll tell the story of it. So I stopped working on these issues sort of in the mid-2010s, 2005-06, and went off to India and Pakistan for 2 years, which was very nice for me. But when I came back a few years ago, I found out that Dalit and Shamus, who have been involved in these issues for 25 years, still involved in these issues, were concerned about some of the things that were going on in Rochdale. And so we had this collaboration we've got this collaboration between Rochdale Borough Council and Manchester University, and so, which has been a very fortuitous and good relationship. Universities, we're being told we need to come out and do more in the community, and hopefully one of the things that this project will do, which we've already been doing, is bring a bit of Manchester University into the borough, and hopefully forge other links. But before I kind of stopped working on this, and I did more work on unemployment, and that's a very important aspect for me of this project. And I did this research in '96 with young people, some of whom are here today. So looking at levels of youth unemployment. And what is really interesting about this research in 1996 is if you look at the statistics on Bangladeshi and Pakistani heritage young people in the mid-1990s, what you find is that it's Bangladeshi heritage young people who are socioeconomically deprived, in the sense that their education attainment, employment rates are lower than Pakistani heritage young people. And I'm using the statistics, so this is why I'm using these labels. By the time you get to the 2000s, what you find is Bangladeshi heritage young people have actually overtaken Pakistani heritage young people. And if you look at the statistics from 2010 in the Northwest, as a community, the Bangladeshi heritage community has progressed economically and in educational attainment from a situation where it's the other way around. And so this was something that I thought was very, very curious. And so I did some work in Manchester, published this article called Against the Odds, which looks at education attainment. And one of the factors that I think I discussed with Shamus at the time, and I talked to Dalit about this as well, is that to some extent we don't have an idea of the background of what we call Pakistani heritage. It's the same when we use the word Indian. I mean, what does Indian heritage mean? When you have someone like me who's got Indian heritage, who's a Punjabi Sikh, and there could be a Gujarati Muslim who's an Indian heritage as well. So it doesn't tell us much about the cultural background or the language background or the needs of the communities. And one of the things that we sort of theorized about at that time was that this kind of socioeconomic, if you like, problems or issues is because the Kashmiri population has never been statistically recognized or targeted for socioeconomic support or for employment programs or for all of the kind of many programs. In between doing all this work on socioeconomic stuff, of course, 7 July happens, radicalization becomes the issue, and so these issues are no longer given a priority. So when we talk about socioeconomic issues, the council and the government say to us, no, we need to talk about security. That we've not, that isn't the issue. The problem is of radicalization of young Muslims. That is the issue. Don't come and talk to us about anything else. And so in one sense, us wanting to focus on the Kashmiri population is also a way of saying, well, actually, we don't want to be so trapped by or caught up in this agenda of radicalization or of the ways in which young people are talked about. And we want to think about, even though, of course, these things are linked, and I'm not saying that it's not important, that issue, but the night economy, going back to my initial research, if you like, is one of the underpinning elements of at least the child sexual exploitation issue, which has become a big issue in Rochdale, big issue in Rotherham. The night economy is also, somewhere where people are socializing, they're socialized in a certain kind of way, and it opens up a cycle of deprivation. And out of that cycle of deprivation, all sorts of, things arise, all sorts of problems arise, if you like. And I think that's really, for me, what appealed to, other than, obviously a Dalit can twist anyone's arm, so what appealed to me to getting back involved with the community that I've been working with for 25 years in the Northwest was this, that actually we need to try and change the discourse a little bit. We need to try and shift the agenda away from the problems that the government see as important to the problems that the community themselves see as important. And that's partly where Shamus comes in, because the local, there's no money in the local government anymore, voluntary sector is decimated. And here we have an opportunity for the voice of the community to at least be articulated, or at least be to have someone around, and keep on pointing at him, have someone around who can at least gather that information and talk through that, and represent it, and present it to the public. And so, for us, the issues, I think, is that tackling the issues that face the communities, which the government want us to deal, and communities themselves. So I'm not saying that the issue of religion isn't important for people themselves, but there are also other aspects of people's identity which needs to be taken into account. And so, for us, it's like what is the sense of being Kashmiri, or if you want to call yourself Mirpuri or Pahari, how is that reflected in the community? And how does this allow or impact on socioeconomic progress? When I was, the ways in which there is a status differentiation between Mirpuris, non-Mirpuri, the way that there's a language differentiation between people who speak Bahari or speak Urdu, these issues, these status issues, are hidden and masked by the ways in which we do monitoring or understand statistics. The work we're doing is pioneering. It's never been done before. We haven't done it in the 20 years that we've talked about doing it. So this is a huge opportunity, not for Rochdale to lead the way, if you like, in terms of showing whether this community requires some kind of special sort of treatment, requires some kind of special approach, or whether it's going to show us that actually it just should be treated like every other community, which also requires some kinds of changes in policy. And for me personally, the issues are about how does this impact on socioeconomic progress. When, it's even though it's anecdotal, what we would hope, what we're going to show is how the next generation, if you like, of Kashmiris is still pretty much stuck in a particular socioeconomic place. And then once we can show that, we can hopefully show ways of tackling it.